Hello, lovely people, and welcome back to another episode. And today we'll be starting everything from the start. Like we'll be doing everything again, detailed. So we're doing EURUSD, XAUUSD, BTCUSD. So this video might get pretty long. So you might maybe want to grab a cup of water or coffee and enjoy this video. All right, so with EURUSD, we are going to start from the weekly time frame. Okay. Since we are going to scalp, we are going to start from the weekly time frame. We can do start from the monthly time frame, but the weekly time frame is also good. All right. So on the weekly time frame, we are getting this distribution from this supply right here. Okay. And the next target for the weekly time frame will be this this demand right here. Okay. Reason being, we are looking for untouched supplies and demand. Those are the high probability areas to give a distribution from. All right. So on the weekly time frame, we are getting a distribution from this supply. Once price started the supply, price started giving this impulse, and the high probability demand price is likely to find next will be this demand right here. Go down to the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, our supply, we have the supply right here. We have the supply right here. And the next demand for the daily time frame is likely to be this demand right here. Okay, so as we already know, on the weekly time frame, we have to know the direction of the market before we start drawing our supply and demand zones. Okay, I already knew it, that's why I just started drawing it. But looking at the weekly time frame, we could all see that we are actually in a bullish trend, but we are currently invalidating this low right here. Okay, so we will get to see if this low gets invalidated at the end of the week. All right, so we are yet still in a bullish trend. When we look at the daily time frame, we can see we are in a bearish trend. All right, this is the very low, the very last low created, and this is the very beginning of that move. Okay, so it's actually in confluence with the daily supply sitting above. All right, I don't want the lines to be many on the chart, so I'll delete this. When we just get to know the direction, we just delete it and mark our supplies and demands. And also on the 4-hour time frame, we keep on scaling down. All right, and on the 4-hour time frame, do we have any supply next that price can likely retrace to? We have the supply right here. This 4-hour supply. Okay, and if we are to look further back, do we have a demand that price is likely to get to next before our daily and weekly demands are met? Yes, we likely have this one here. We have this. Let's see if price had already touched. No. So yes, that's the next target for price right now for Euro USD. We are likely to get to this H4 demand. Maybe grab some volume from this supply and then distribute to this demand. So scale down again to the 1-hour time frame. On the 1-hour time frame, we are going to do the same thing. But let's get to know the direction of Euro USD. So the direction of Euro USD on the 4-hour time frame is bearish. All right. You can see lower low, lower high. We validated the low, and we are now in a lower low. We've now created a lower low, right? So let's go to the 1-hour time frame. Because we are going to scalp, we want to make this detailed as possible, all right? We don't want to be confused. So on the 1 hour time frame also, if you have to look for a supply here, we likely have the supply, which price is currently given an impulse from, and we are likely to find a demand next. So there's the supply right here. This is the H1 supply. Price is currently given an impulse from, all right? So we are likely to find a clean demand next. So when we look here, we don't have any demand here. All our demands here has been touched, all right? So we want a fresh demand for price. We look further back and see if we have any demand that price will likely give a retracement from. This demand is touched. This is also touched. This is touched. So the next demand is this demand on the H1. Okay. So now the H4 demand has to be met before the 1 hour demand is met. So likely, or the high probability thing for EURUSD to do is to distribute to this 4 hour demand right here. Okay. Right now that we've used the supply and currently given the impulse, before New York session open, if we are able to invalidate this low, we are likely to look for a fresh supply created on either the 15-minute time frame or the 5-minute time frame to then what? Look for entries there. All right. So that's the market direction for EURUSD. EURUSD is currently bearish, going to look for an H4 demand next. Let's go to XAUUSD. Okay. So with XAUUSD on the weekly time frame, we had this demand right here, which this demand got tested, distributed back to the upside, and then prices now coming down. Okay. So since price is coming down, price is likely to find a fresh demand next. So this is the fresh demand we are likely to find on the weekly time frame if price is to continue on that impulse to scale down further. And actually, EURUSD is bullish. All right, EURUSD is bullish. You could see that. You see, this was the higher low, broke above, and now price is just dancing in between this higher low. All right, so there's a buy side liquidity right here. Okay, so in our buy side liquidity, we don't have any fresh supply, any fresh demand that price is likely to give a move from. That doesn't mean that price will actually find a fresh demand. No, it's a probability. Okay, we can either create a fresh demand right here on the lower time frames for price to then look for the weekly supply next. All right, so yes, on the weekly time frame we are bullish. This is the next fresh supply on the weekly time frame for XAUUSD. When we go to the daily time frame, on the daily time frame we have this supply just created. Okay, and what is our next hyperbole demand? Every demand here has been touched. So this is the next hyperbole demand for price to find the next. And also on the daily time frame, we could see that price is currently bearish. Why am I saying that? Because this was the higher high, the last higher high, and the last higher low, right? And then price invalidated the higher low right here, okay, making this a lower high and making this one right here a lower low, all right? So now we are yet to invalidate this lower low. Oh, this lower low has been invalidated already. So now on the daily time frame, XAUUSD is bearish. All right. We validated the lower low. We got another lower low. We now have a lower high. All right. So XAUUSD is bearish. We'll be looking to find volume inside the sell side liquidity, which will be this zone right here, which we have our supply here, and we have this supply also here. All right. So XAUUSD is bearish on the daily time frame, and we will need to find sell side liquidity. All right. Let's scale down further. We go to the 4-hour time frame. When we go to the 4-hour time frame on XAUUSD, we could see we have supplies. We have this supply right here, this 4-hour supply right here, and we have this 4-hour supply also here. But let's use only the first one, because we'll have to break this first one before we get to the second one. All right. So now, if price is likely to find a demand next, what is a high probable area for price to find? Price is likely to find this demand next. Okay, this demand right here. Okay, so now also on the H4 4-hour time frame, we could see that price is also bearish. Okay, we invalidated this lower low right here. Yes, and price is still bearish on the 4-hour time frame. All right, so let's scroll down further. Oh, you see, we literally hit that demand right there. We still have some small margin left to fill. But yes, this H4 demand is the next target for XAUUSD. When we look at the 1-hour time frame also, you can see we have this supply right here. But we will have to first invalidate the H4 supply, or we'll have to first meet the H4, meet the H4 supply before we get to the H1 supply. Okay. And also nothing on the H1 time frame is stopping price to take the 4-hour demand next. Okay. If you have to look on the H4, our next hyperable demand zone is this zone right here. Okay. So the H4 demand has to be met before the H1 demand can also be met. Okay. Now let's go to BTCUSD. Sorry. BTCUSD, let's delete everything and do it over again. As I was saying in my prior videos, we will still end up there. All right. It's the same thing, nothing has changed. It's just adding details and being precise about the levels. Okay. Okay. On BTCUSD, also we could see on the weekly time frame, BTCUSD is currently bearish. Okay. Yes, we are forming lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, and lower highs. But we first have this supply here that price has to invalidate. Or that's the high probable supply that price can reach next. And the next probable demand that price can reach next on the weekly time frame will be this demand right here. Okay. This demand right here. We'll scale down to the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, we have the supply here. Price is likely to find the supply on the daily time frame next. And the next demand on the daily time frame for price to likely find will be okay. So there's actually no demand here, and this demand right here, price had already touched. So we look for a fresh area of demand. I'll look down here. Every demand here has been touched. So the next demand for BTCUSD on the daily time frame will be this demand right here in confluence with the weekly demand. Okay. So we scale down to the 4-hour time frame. On the 4-hour time frame, our next supply is this supply right here. And our next demand, okay, is likely to be this demand right here. We'll have to invalidate this demand first, okay, on BTCUSD to seek more demands underneath. And also on the 4-hour time frame, BTCUSD is bearish, okay? We are forming lower lows and lower highs. When we go to the 1-hour time frame, on the 1-hour time frame also, BTCUSD is bearish, okay? So this was the low I was saying that when price invalidates, that means nothing is stopping price to further look down to find a buy side liquidity and create a new buy side liquidity to confirm the bullish move, okay? And now that low has been invalidated right here, okay? Since that low has been invalidated, price went to find a demand. Let me see if price found a demand here. I don't know if it will be on this time frame or used. So actually, it's still this demand that is in control on BTCUSD. We haven't formed any new. You see this demand right here to the low is still a demand. So we see that's the demand still holding price, okay? So when we go to the H1 time frame again, price is giving an impulse to the upside, okay? And the next supply price is likely to find next is this 1-hour supply in confluence with the H4 supply, okay? So I decided not to mark it because it's in confluence with the H4 supply. And the next demand for price to invalidate will be this demand right here, okay? So if price invalidates this demand, there's nothing stopping price to this demand right here, okay? And that will actually mean that we'll be invalidating this daily demand also. Yeah, we'll be invalidating this daily demand also, right? And I think here that's also a 4-hour demand. Yes, that's a, oh, okay. I gave it to the H4. So we'll be validating both the H4 demand and the 1-hour demand. Okay. So yes, BTC USD is still bearish. These demands are the demands that are likely to hold BTC USD and then create a new buy side liquidity. But right now we are looking inside a sell side liquidity, which will be the supply right here. So when we get to this supply, if a confirmation is given for more sells, price is likely to continue to this demand, and this demand is also likely to decide the fate of the bearish move. Okay, so BTC, that's it for BTC USD, currently bearish. XAUUSD currently bearish also, and EURUSD bearish as well. So thank you all for watching my video. I'll be very happy and very grateful if you like, subscribe, and leave a comment for me. Thank you once again, and see you in the post-market breakdown. Peace out.